Welcome to the Oliavo Team Zoom. It's an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be a part of Oliavo, and I believe we have the power to change paradigms. And that's based on many years of clinical experience and many years of seeing literally tens of thousands of patients and understanding root cause. And root cause is in my opinion, it's been escalating for the past 30 years. And I think the opinion of many statisticians as well. Disease is on the rise, and we see it all around us. We see friends and family that are struggling. We see people that are on not only one med, but sometimes two and three. And we see people whose lifespan is being shortened, and that's it shouldn't be that way. With all of the knowledge we have and the abilities we have, we should be living longer than ever. And fortunately, we have blue zones. We have blue zones around the world, and typically they're separated by many thousands of miles. There's one in Costa Rica. There's there's actually one in Southern California, in the Loma Linda area. There's one in Okinawa, Japan. And there's two right in the heart of the Mediterranean. There's one in Greece and one in Italy. And apparently they're working on another area in Italy of the blue zone. And what is a blue zone? That's where people live longer with less disease. And it's so remarkable that it's been highly studied, trying to figure out why that's so. And we came back with, because two blue zones so close together in the Mediterranean and such remarkable statistics on their health and wellness, we came back with surmising that the Mediterranean diet is the most successful diet in the world. And I've been fortunate enough to be there several times, to the coast of France, the coast of Spain, the coast of Turkey, the coast of Italy. And I've been able to, I know people in those areas, so been able to spend some time sitting, having meals, talking with them. And I didn't see any super healthy diet. And yet we talked about the Mediterranean diet for the past, let's say, 3 decades or so, but intensifying really over the past decade. And what exactly is it? Well, I can tell you from being there, it's not any different really than people from Africa or South America or Australia or Asia, just eating kind of locally and eating fresh foods and things of that nature. And in those other venues, it's the same kind of people eating the same kinds of foods, fresh foods. And yet I saw a lot of flaws in the diet that they were eating in the Mediterranean. I saw an exceptional amount of refined carbohydrates, breads and pastas. I saw that the vegetables that were consumed were high in lectins. We're talking tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, legumes. I saw there were definitely desserts. There were cannolis, there were cakes, there were tiramisus. They enjoy their desserts there. And I do know that a glass of wine, let's say in an evening, is considered healthy. But they didn't stop with a glass of wine in most of those countries and most of those areas. So they, in my opinion, they drank to excess. They drank to a stage that was, I consider, not healthy. And the entire diet, when I added it up, didn't seem to be that healthy. But one thing I do recall, and even if you would go out to dinner, they would set a bowl of these green olives on the table, absolutely delicious. Obviously, fermented naturally and very, very delicious. In fact, my wife never liked olives. And I encouraged her on one visit it was in Spain. I said, you should try these. She said, I don't eat olives. But she finally ate one and she said, now, I would eat olives if they tasted like that. They were really good. And then you always saw the flask of the olive oil and it had a green tint to it always. So that's the quality stuff. That's the first press, early press at the very least, the good stuff that's really that we can't get in this country, in North America or most parts of the world. They kind of covet it locally in the Mediterranean region. And of course, I already mentioned the wine. They do partake of grapes in numerous forms. And I mentioned tomatoes as well. So they're getting plenty of lycopene. And there's certain herbs that are characteristic of their diet, and that includes the herb rosemary that finds its way into their foods very often. In fact, you might find a fresh sprig of rosemary in those olives they set on the table. You know, it didn't occur to me that this was the reason that they live longer, stronger, healthier lives. But lo and behold, this is what we're finding out. We're finding out it is truly the olive botanicals. You throw in the grapeseed extract, you throw in lycopene, rosemary, and you have an amazing combination of botanicals. And if you go to the research, page after page after page, literally hundreds of thousands of published studies on all kinds of things. And when I look at it and analyze it, a lot of it, even the cardiovascular, kidney, brain, nerve, all of those things, a lot of it, I believe, is foundational, because our root cause that we found clinically oftentimes was the gut and the liver. And that was the foundation of wellness and the foundation of disease. And that, I believe, is on the increase. And part of the reason the past, let's say, 3 decades that disease has increased is look at the food supply. It's been very damaging to the gut. There's been more and more consumption of processed foods that have things like high fructose corn syrup that's just very damaging to the liver and the gut. Just more sugars in our diet, period. And the sugars are very toxic to the liver. And guess what the liver does? Well, about 500 known functions. Everything to do with the blood, getting the blood correct. And that includes even blood sugars, because it takes your excess sugar in your blood and stores it as a molecule of glycogen. And when your body needs more glucose, it'll break it down enzymatically and turn it into glucose. And so there's your glucose for energy. But the excess glucose is converted to glycogen in the liver. And so it helps to control your blood sugar. It also absolutely controls your lipids. It gets the lipids correct. It actually manufactures cholesterol in the liver. And so there's all this talk about cholesterol and how bad it is for you. Cholesterol is actually vital for our existence. If we did not have cholesterol, we would die. Our brain is composed primarily of cholesterol. Our cell membranes are phospholipid in nature. That's a sterol, that's a cholesterol, is the precursor of all of that. So the liver keeps those kind of things, the nerves intact, the brain intact, the cell membranes to be fluid and flexible with healthy phospholipid membranes that can react and absorb things they need and keep things they don't need out. And that's very, very important. It also controls the blood viscosity. So many people on blood thinners these days. Well, that's the liver's job. A healthy liver gets the blood correct, the right viscosity. It creates all of the precursors, well, for most of the hormones that we use, all those, the steroid hormones that many people run deficient in as they get older, the precursors are made in the liver. What about your immune system? Many aspects of our immunity, the precursors are manufactured in the liver. But the gut and the liver are dynamically connected. As soon as the food goes down, let's just follow food down just for a moment. You chew it, and there's enzymes in the mouth, the ptyalin, which helps to break down carbohydrates. So you chew your food, and that breaks it down into smaller particles and injects ptyalin in there from the salivary glands. And that helps to break down those carbohydrates that are a little bit, they're hard to break down. So that's where it all starts. Then it goes down, you swallow it, it goes down into the stomach. The stomach's very acid. And it's necessary to be very acid, like I think 4.2 or something like that pH, very acid. The reason for that is parasites and pathogenic organisms and things we might eat end up getting killed in the stomach, at least to a large degree. So it protects us. But it also, very importantly, denatures proteins so that in the next phase, when it's in the duodenum and the pancreas secretes the enzymes, the protease in this case, but also it secretes lipase, which is fat, and amylase, which helps break down the carbs further. But in this case, the protease, the protein breaking down enzyme. So it's when it gets into that first part of the small gut, the duodenum, then now the protease can actually work and break down those proteins. So you can actually, in the gut, you can absorb some of those proteins and take them in and rebuild and restore yourself. And the same thing happens to a degree with fat. As we eat any oil or fat, it goes down, and as it hit that lower part of the stomach, first part of the duodenum, there's a hormone that's released, cholecystokinin. And cholecystokinin, its receptor site is the gallbladder. And fat is otherwise really hard for us to break down and benefit from. And I really stress benefit from because the liver needs that. It needs those essential fatty acids because that's foundational to help us create all of those lipids and cholesterol and things that we need to survive. So that's very important that we break that down so that bile gets squeezed because the gallbladder contracts because it reacts to that hormone. The cholecystokinin is in the small gut now, and it acts like soap. And fat is typically large globule and very difficult for your body to handle. But when that soap gets in there, it breaks it into smaller particles. Kind of like washing your hands. If your hands are greasy, you use soap and it comes off clean. If you don't use soap, it just stays sticky and greasy. So it's the same way it kind of begins to break it down. And the lipase from the pancreas now can break it down so you can absorb it properly. And the same thing with the carbohydrates that amylase is secreted to help break those down. So now you have these substances in your small intestine, all kind of broken down because your digestion is working properly. The problem is, and the problem we've seen for the past, let's say, 3 decades, is that so much consumption of foods that actually damage the gut and the liver are consumed, together with many toxins that are taken in along with those foods, like herbicides and pesticides that are sprayed on our crops, glyphosates, et cetera, sprayed on with GMOs that came on the advent around the mid-90s. These kind of things are very damaging to the delicate membranes of the gut. So what happens is it begins to erode those membranes. And the gut, which is designed to take in those broken down particles and broken down to a degree that it recognizes, because it's semi-permeable, and it just automatically recognizes, okay, it starts to take those in, and those are your nutrients that get into your blood, and now your body it actually goes to the liver, and the liver works with it, and then the signaling happens, and things are sent all over your body depending on what your body needs and where it needs it. But when it becomes leaky, when it becomes damaged, and now it's permeable, not semi-permeable, a lot of those particles leak in through that gut wall. And what happens? It activates your defense, this innate immunity, these macrophages, these large molecules, lymphocytes, leukocytes, eosinophils, neutrophils. These are these white blood cells and things circulating in your blood get called out in mass because there's all of these things getting in the blood that shouldn't be there. So they're called in to clean it up. They're like the garbage crew. They come in and they surround those undigested particles, those large particles, and they surround it. And the first place it goes is the liver. So now there's a flood of things going to the liver that the liver shouldn't have to deal with. It's like garbage. And so it's trying to keep up with all of the things, keeping the blood right, keeping the sugars, keeping the lipids, making the hormones, helping with the enzymes, all of the stuff the liver is doing. And now it's got all this garbage coming in, having to process it. That's not easy. So the liver begins to get behind. And when the liver gets behind and can't do the work that it needs to do, it starts sending signals. We got to store, we got to store, we got to store this in the fat cells, because most of those things that are absorbed that are toxic are fat soluble. A lot of the pesticides, herbicides, petrochemicals, things that end up in our blood, fat soluble. It's got to be stored. We can't process it yet. We got to put it in the fat cells. If there's no fat cells, we got to expand them, especially around the organs, around the belly, because we got to protect the organs. Those are our vital last bastion of defense. So the belly fat grows and obesity becomes an issue. Fatty liver can become an issue. And as the immune system kind of runs low because it's constantly on day in and day out, then it calls up another line of defense, T cells. And when the T cells get called in, that's your adaptive immunity. That's where there's so much going on that, okay, we have to build a template for these structures that are invading us so we can react to them, and we can build more T cells quickly. And we have to build a template, kind of like you want to manufacture something and just duplicate it, boom, 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 so you can have more and more support. So that's what it does. It creates all these T cells that recognize those molecules that are flooding in through your gut. So it could be food that you're eating. So you're reacting to those kinds of things. So that's where allergies can happen. And various seeds and wheats and grains and dairies and those kind of things, you could react to those. But there's two generations of T cells. There's one, the first generation, Th1, is pretty good at isolating and attacking. But then when they start running low, they call up the reserves, Th2. Th2 is not as sharp. And sometimes if it's a similar protein pattern, it might get confused. If it reacts to a body tissue, that's autoimmunity. If it's synovial membrane in a joint, that's rheumatoid arthritis. If it's a nerve pathway, it could be Parkinson's or ALS, or if it's connective tissue, it could be scleroderma or lupus. All of these different autoimmune conditions, Hashimoto's, thyroid, it's epidemic. And that's what's happening, is in the level of the blood, it's in the level of the immune system, but the domino that fell, it well over 90% of the time we found is the first step was the gut. The gut became challenged, overwhelmed the liver, overwhelmed the immune system, and then things begin to spin out of control. So foundationally, what I see in the Ollie Botanicals and in grapeseed extract and this combination of things that Oliabo has put together with their flagship product Prima is it supports gut and liver brilliantly. And because of that, you see reduction in all of these other diseases that are inflammatory in nature, things like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, neurological conditions, all of these kinds of things come under better control, not because we have a cure for it, but because we're supporting what I call the miracle within. We're supporting this mechanism, this body, in a very foundational way, gut and liver. And that's the brilliance of it. And that's what I saw right away when I began diving into the studies and thought, wow, when people came to our clinic and were getting treated, very expensive, and if they traveled there, you know, that cost money as well. Now, a daily packet, a powerful combination of botanicals can be accessed anywhere in the world. And we're not in all countries yet, but we're in, I think, about 15 of them. We're just opening in South Africa, in fact, as we speak. And we're just 4 months into it. So, you know, by a year from now, it could easily be 50 countries. So to give people access to this globally, and actually the reason that I believe, and having been there and now having studied what the Ollie Botanicals do, the reason the Mediterranean people are so successful, dietary-wise and health-wise, lifespan, health span, etc., we have packaged and can distribute globally. And that's an amazing thing, and why I started this call off saying that we have the power to change a paradigm. And that doesn't happen often in life. So we're truly blessed to be a part of this. And because it's foundational, it doesn't have any stimulants, it doesn't have anything that just changes the symptomatology. What it does is supports the way your body functions. It doesn't get any better than that, because the body's able to do amazing things. And the DNA has that picture of perfection that we are. And it's been cut off, it's been derailed, and it's been interrupted and interfered with and overwhelmed. And once you restore that foundation, if you think about it, foundation is vital for, it doesn't matter what it is, a building. I worked on building houses in my life. And if you don't have a real good foundation, you don't have a good house. It's not going to last. And it's the same way with human beings. And our foundation has been stripped away by the industry turning chemical 100 years ago. So medicine and industry and agriculture, it all went chemical because it was easier, it was less expensive, and they could make more money. So that was kind of the way of the world. But that's not the paradigm that is better, that's best for the people in general. And I think people are waking up and realizing we need a paradigm that actually works for us, that doesn't just work for like the 0.5% and makes them wealthy. That's not going to work anymore, because people are smarter than that and people communicate. So that's kind of foundationally gives you a 30,000 foot view. But why olives? Why the olive botanicals? What's up with that? And it's amazing. The more you dig into it, you start realizing, why didn't we know more about this in the past? You see the average age of the trees, the olive trees in Europe, are 400 to 600 years old. These are the average trees that are highly productive in the orchards, 400 to 600 years. What was happening in North America 600 years ago? It's like crazy. There wasn't much here in the way of, it was very primitive here. And yet the olive trees were growing in those orchards 600 plus years ago. But the amazing thing is this: many of those trees are way older than 600 years. There's lots of trees that are 1,000 years old, 2,000, 3,000 years old, even 4,000 years. The oldest one is, they know it's at least 4,000 years old, but they think it's between 4,000 and 5,000 years sometime. It's a little hard to date an olive tree because they don't have the same ring structure that the deciduous trees here do, that we have, that are common here. So it's a little hard to date it, but in their best estimation, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 years. And guess what? It still produces fruit. So these trees are very resilient. They're able to withstand many forces of nature. They're able to withstand extreme temperatures, extreme drought, even floods, even fires. Fires have gone through and burned orchards, and the plants don't come back, but the olive trees do. So what they've been able to do, in fact, olive trees have the same number of chromosomes, 46, that we do and that humans do, the same number of chromosomes, which is extremely rare. But they have about triple the number of genes. So through the millennia, through the thousands of years, they've been able to morph themselves and adapt and change, and in the process create these high phenolic kinds of substances inside themselves that resist disease, that bring strength, that bring resilience, that bring just integrity to their being and existence, that like no other plant on the planet or no other life form on the planet. But the people immersed in that culture that partake of the olive botanicals obviously benefit from that and begin to manifest the same kinds of resilience, disease resistance, etc. So it's an amazing phenomena, and it's one that needs to be spread far and wide. So we have, I think we have Bobby Donaldson here, and she wants to tell her story. So I'm all ears. Bobby, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Well, Jerry, Dr. Jerry, I've been in a lot of pain probably in the last 8 weeks trying to pass a kidney stone. And normally I pass them on my own. Several times I've had to have lithotripsy or actually had to have surgery once. And so I kind of thought my pain, I would put up with it because I knew that I'd be passing the stone. Well, then 2 weeks ago, I passed the stone, but my discomfort was a 10. I have to be the hardest part about for me to give a testimony is the things that my husband had and this issue. It's um the results have been so wonderful. It's hard not to say the horrific things that happened. And so my pain got so bad I couldn't stand, sit, walk, anything. It was excruciating. And so went to my doctor, and he knows my kidney stone history. He knows, but normally I don't have pain after I pass the stone. And I was in such pain. They sent me to the emergency room, and then they sent me to the hospital. They couldn't figure out what it was. They did ultrasounds, CAT scan, and when they did the MRI, they discovered I had a fractured L1 disc, or what you know the definition for that. And so the only thing they gave me IVs of strong pain medicine, which helped while I was at the hospital, and they sent me home with strong pain medicine. And anyway, it was the pain medicine would wear off in about 4 hours, and that would be back to discomfort of 10. And so they fitted me with a belt. They said I will have to wear that for probably 2 or 3 months, and then I have an appointment at the spinal clinic at the University of Iowa. But today I thought I heard other awesome testimonies from two gentlemen, one with his knees, another one with major back. And I thought I was going to I've been taking a Prima, but I took a, a Prima at 8 o'clock, and then I took another one at 10 o'clock. But even after 8 o'clock, my pain had really
Street,
gone down. My
Roman, go check.
my
Minnesota,
discomfort had gone down to
Vish,
to
and
about an 8, and then
always
took
remember
um,
our waters.
I took another one then at when I took the next one at 10 o'clock, my pain was like a 1 or 2. I could not believe it. I could walk, I could sit down better. And then about 2 o'clock, it started to wear off. And so I took another Prima, and within probably 10 minutes, I was able to do two Oliabo appointments at my home. And so, the day before, they had been our house for doing some service work. And today they said, Bobby, you are walking. You're walking so good. Before I could hardly walk. Um, and I said, well, took some of my product, and they go, what is it? And I said, well, I've explained it. So they both there, and then they called back tonight and said they're bringing their supervisors. And but I did a call with Herman today, and Phoebe can probably add. I was wanting to shout it off the roof. I'm just, I had one of my last child was half ounce from 11 pounds. And that child, this was like a labor pain for 24 hours. It would not release. At least when I was in labor, I had a break, and then I had an awesome baby to bring home. And it was I'm still really excited. I told Fifi I probably shouldn't do a call tonight because I'm just too excited about it. And we had We had awesome news a couple weeks ago, and I shared that with you, our Dr. Jerry. And it's hard to explain. Most of the people maybe that are on this call knows my husband's health journey. So you know the word that I can't speak. But one thing I will say, a couple of weeks ago, he had a PET scan, shows none of that issue from head to toe. I mean, I'm so excited. I just, I can't tell you, I think God just wanted me to have my own great testimony. And you probably can't tell on the screen tonight, but I, have the new skin product on. I'm almost 80, and I guess I want to kind of look more like I'm 70.
Definitely.
So I mean, I just, it just gives me that much more compassion for people that have these horrible, pain that is just not ending. I just, um, I don't know. I just, thank you, Dr. Jerry, for all of your help in every which way, and Vernon for sponsoring me and all of his help. And then all of the people on this call that give such awesome testimonies. I don't like to be on camera. I'd like to listen to testimonies, but everybody says, and you learn so much. If you give a testimony, if it's not professional like me, it's still people benefit from your story. And so um, I'm extremely happy.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, I think it's great that don't be professional. I'm not professional. Just let it flow, let it come from your heart. And that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you. Yeah, the oleocanthal is a natural, not only anti-inflammatory, a natural pain reliever found in high phenolic extra virgin olive oil. So it's one of the phenols, and it has a similar pathway as ibuprofen, and it's very effective. But the most important thing to understand is to restore the human body. It takes some time, and it takes at least 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use to build that foundation back so the mechanisms that can restore us can begin to function the way they were intended to function. And that's where the real journey begins, is as our body is restored. I believe that those of us partaking of these, of Prima, will be able to live not only a longer lifespan, but like Dr. Burt Miller says, an extended health span, so that we're able to do the things that we love to do in life for as long as possible. And that's really what we are about. Bottom line is to help restore our well-being. And I saw clinically that most people's conditions were because that had been taken from them, that had been damaged. And in the current society we live in, it's almost expected because of all of the things we're exposed to. Not only the toxins, the actual chemicals, but also the aberrant wavelengths and various frequencies we're continually subjected to all over the planet. So it does have an effect. And then you add on top of that the stress of the news that comes across the airwaves, and just the pace of life. It seems like, as I recall, back in the 60s and 70s, the pace of life, you just took it as it came, and it was just more mellow. And there were days that you just could look at the clouds and enjoy it sitting in the park. And that doesn't happen so much these days. People just have to rush here and there. And the other thing is people go home and they end up just staring at their computer screen. Back in the old days, we'd go out and play some catch, we'd play some little bit of baseball, we'd go maybe shoot some hoops, or we'd just, go walk around the track at the park or something. People were much more active, or you'd mow the grass, mow the lawn. And these days, people come home and they sit in front of their screen, whether it's TV or computer. So that's all part of that paradigm that I believe that if you're not feeling well, you just don't have the gumption to go do anything. And I think that changes 8 to 12 weeks, 3 months, 90 days, something like this. You start going, hey, I'm going to start, doing that daily walk that my doctor has been after me to do, because you feel better. You feel more like it. You take your kids to the park and, hit some pop-up baseballs and play frisbee, things like that. That's the things that start coming back when your body feels like, getting out and doing it. But most people just don't feel foundationally like they can do that. So we really do need a paradigm shift, and I really think foundationally we have that with Oliabo. So I'm really, really thankful and grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for you, Bobby, and Fifi, and Liddy. And I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in and say anything, but we can wrap if not.
Dr. Jerry, I'm going to stay off screen for the moment, but this is Liddy. I took a long trip, a 4,000-mile trip, and I helped somebody move. But here's what happened as I was helping them move. I hit the area above my kneecap and with a dryer, and didn't think anything of it. So the next day driving, it was like a little tender. The next day, still driving, it's like, ooh, my knee is swelling. I went in my bag, I grabbed the Flex, I pulled my pant leg up, my pants were like stretchable, so I pulled it above my knee, and I just took a couple of squirts and I rubbed it in my knee while I was driving, and I thought, whew, it's getting tighter. So a couple hours later, put some more Flex on it. And then I went on the bottom side and I put it all the way around, and I was able to get out of the vehicle and bend my knee like, wow, I can actually move it. And then so I got home, it continued to swell. So day 2, Flex for the 4th time, and I was able to lay flat, and I was able, with 4 applications, actually walk without looking crippled. So I want you to know that that Flex is pretty powerful. I've had a carpal tunnel experience with one pump on rubbing it on my wrist, and all the numbness and the tingling and the pain came out of my hand in actually 1 week. I have never put that back on again since the first week of having the Flex. So that's been about, maybe 6, 8 weeks ago now that I've actually applied that. So it's the inflammation is gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Liddy. It's awesome. Well, I didn't reach out to a lot of folks today for testimonials because I was considering not doing tonight's call because we're traveling in the morning. But I'm really glad we did. And we heard Bobby's story, we heard Liddy's story. And hopefully those of you new on this call realize that we have something that the world needs, and it desperately needs. People are looking. I know people are looking because I talk with them and hear them, and we have the answer.
Dr. Jerry, can I add one more thought? I think that a lot of people don't understand what really happens when we take ibuprofen. I've been reading about that, and it says that the ibuprofen actually destroys the liver. And when you talk about the liver all the time, and we're trying to regain all the functionality of the liver, if somebody has pain, the first thing to think about is ibuprofen. They actually are destroying the liver. So if we have a solution to put something on topically, so that we don't even destroy the liver, and we help the body pull that inflammation out of that area. I mean, we got a 1-2 punch. I just want to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Liddy. Yeah, it is. That's just a different paradigm. People have resorted to a drug effect, but there's a lot of side effects with drugs. So if we do it a more natural way that the body can recognize, then in the long term, we're better off, as evidenced by the blue zones, because they stuck with tradition. Primarily, they believed the ancestors had the answers, and they didn't deviate from that. So I think we can learn a lot by observing that. And then we validate that further with the thousands upon thousands of peer-reviewed studies. So we've got something great to share, and it's just up to us to get the word out. So thank you all for being here tonight. And we will not be doing the quick look call Wednesday or Friday. So let your teams know. And I really, really appreciate all of you. Very grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Jerry, I wanted to see if I could add one more thing.
Sure, always.
So many times we need to write down when we start our issues, because even with myself, I had 7 years of chronic nighttime coughing. They did different things. They wanted me to use inhaler, but from the first night that 4.5 months ago, when I took my first Prima, I've had no nighttime cough.
Wow.
And so sometimes that'll help people to hear that testimony again, but make sure you write down what issues you have or what issues your spouse has, and then kind of keep track of it. I know Liddy does a really good job of that, and that everybody, it's easy to, when you get free of an issue, it's so easy to forget
Yes.
that you had it because you feel so good.
That's one of the wisdom components behind a doctor giving you an intake questionnaire with the rate your pain and rate in what conditions do you have, what are your concerns, and rate them, because 6 months in, if your body's getting better, you forget that it was ever a problem. And then go back and review that questionnaire and say, oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you again for the call tonight, Dr. Jerry.
Thank you, Bobby. And have a great week, everyone. And we'll hear you next Monday on the quick look call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Jerry.
Dr. Jerry.
Good job.
Dr. Jerry.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr. Jerry, and beautiful, beautiful call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jerry.
Awesome. You're all awesome.
Appreciate you. Bye. Take care.
True leaders. Thank you so much. Bye for now.